When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. This single divine key, offered to us by the sage Carl Jung, unlocks the most profound mysteries of your life, especially those whispered in the dark, in the moments after intimacy. Have you ever felt it, that hollow echo after a moment of intense connection? You told yourself it was just desire, a fleeting pleasure you were chasing. But if that were true, why do you always feel a deeper emptiness afterward? Why does the silence that follows hit with more force than the climax itself? This isn't just a feeling, it's a sacred message from your soul, a signpost pointing toward a truth that has been buried deep within you. A truth so powerful that once you hear it, you can never unhear it. And by the end of this journey together, you will finally understand the hidden spiritual mechanics behind your deepest cravings. If this resonates with the quiet places in your spirit, let your presence be known. Like this message, subscribe for more truth, and share in the comments if you've ever felt this sacred ache. Let us know we are not alone on this path. You believed you were seeking simple pleasure, a biological urge, something to conquer or possess. But what if that was never the real story? What if what you have labeled lust was never about the physical act at all? Imagine, for a moment, that this intense, sometimes overwhelming force is not a base instinct, but a spiritual cry in disguise. It is the unhealed part of you, your inner child, still yearning for the validation and acceptance it never received. It's the echo of every moment you were told your sensitivity was a weakness, your emotions a burden. That deep, driving hunger you feel for another person's body is often a projection of your own soul's starvation. You are starving for yourself. You see her, and a magnetic pull takes over her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way she looks at you that for a fleeting second makes you feel like you might finally be enough. This isn't just attraction. It's a vibration that hits something far deeper. It brushes against a forgotten hunger within you, a desperate need not just to touch her, but to finally feel chosen, to be seen and accepted without having to perform, without having to earn your place. This is the great illusion that has trapped millions of men. Most men do not chase sex, they chase the feeling of mattering. And the act of intimacy, or what our culture has reduced to sex, becomes the elaborate costume that this ancient craving wears. You see her, and you say, "I want her." But listen closer. Beneath the surface of that thought, what your soul is truly whispering is, "I want to be wanted." That is not lust. That is a wound, a profound spiritual wound, disguised as desire. Carl Jung, in his infinite wisdom, understood that what we call love or desire is often the psyche's desperate projection of its own deepest, unmet needs. This means you are not truly seeing her. You are seeing the parts of you that were never held, never affirmed, never told. You don't have to earn this love. You are already whole. You are already enough. And so, you project. You project not just a simple longing, but the entire emotional child that lives inside you, the one who still believes that if he just performs perfectly, if he says the right words and makes the right moves, he will finally receive the unconditional love he craves. But she can never be the answer, because she is not the source of the question. She is simply the screen, the mirror your unconscious mind uses to replay the same old, sacred ache over and over again. This is how the game begins, the performance of a lifetime. You start to perform. You dress the part, say the right words, stroke her ego, not because you are inherently manipulative, but because you are terrified of the alternative of not being chosen again, of facing that primal wound of rejection. You mask your inner emptiness with a display of outer confidence. You hide your fear of being ignored with masterful flirtation. And you call this game chemistry. But it is not chemistry. It is a coping mechanism. It is your pain dressed in the beautiful clothes of seduction. You were never taught this, because it is a truth that our society has conspired to forget. So much of what we call male desire, especially when it becomes obsessive, intense, or unrelenting, is not about passion at all. It is about a desperate attempt to prove worth. And the cruelest part of this cycle is that even when you get her, even when you achieve the conquest, the emptiness returns, often more potent than before, because it was never about her. It was about the hole inside of you that no one, absolutely no one on the outside, can ever fill. Jung's words echo once more. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is your fate, playing out in your relationships. You are not addicted to women. You are addicted to the illusion that one of them holds the key to fixing what was broken in your childhood. But they can't. They never could. And the sooner you accept this divine truth, the sooner you can stop begging to be chosen by others and start reclaiming the parts of yourself you abandoned just to feel wanted. This is not a message of guilt. This is a call to awakening. Your desire is not wrong. It has simply been hijacked. It has been commandeered, not by her, but by the fragmented parts of you still crying out in the silence of your soul. And if you never turn to face those parts, you will continue to call your pain attraction, when it is truly a profound hunger to come home to yourself. The moment she smiles at you, something shifts not just in your body, but in the very fabric of your soul. It feels electric, ancient, almost sacred. You don't just want her, you feel an overwhelming need for her. Not for the physical act, but for something deeper, for meaning, for peace, for a sense of wholeness. And yet, you don't understand why this feeling is so powerful, so all-consuming. Carl Jung did. He called this projection the anima, the hidden feminine essence, the soul image that resides inside every man. This is not a fantasy or a preference. It is a psychic blueprint etched into your unconscious from the moment you were born. It holds all your repressed internal softness, your capacity for deep emotion, your tenderness, everything the world told you to reject in order to be a man. So, where does all that rejected softness go? It gets buried deep in the shadow, and later in life, it gets projected onto her. Not the real her, but the divine image your soul paints over her physical form. You do not fall in love with the woman. You fall in love with your own forgotten sensitivity, disguised as her voice, her face, her warmth. And this is the trap. Because now, you are not just attracted, you are enchanted. She becomes the answer, the medicine, the divine rescue mission. But how can she possibly carry the weight of your entire exiled soul? You have turned her into a goddess, not a person. You have turned her into a projection. And when she inevitably fails to live up to the impossible myth you have cast upon her, you feel betrayed. This is the birthplace of emotional dependency. It is not born out of love, but out of an unconscious, desperate attempt to reclaim your own inner feminine by using her as a spiritual shortcut. You think if she stays, you will finally be whole. You think if she loves you, you will finally be enough. But this has nothing to do with her. You have mistaken the reflection in the mirror for reality itself. And every time you place your inner anima onto a woman's face, you don't see her. You see what you have lost in yourself. And that illusion will always, always collapse, because she cannot be the home you have never built inside your own heart. Jung warned us that the man who does not confront his anima will project her endlessly and will suffer for it every single time. Until you reclaim her the sensitivity, the softness, the very soul you exiled, you will keep turning women into salvation, and then you will end up hating them for not saving you. This is not just heartbreak, it is self-abandonment disguised as love. You thought you were entering her body, but what you were really doing was surrendering your soul. No one ever told you that sex, true sacred sex, is not just biology, it is ritual. It is a profound psychic exchange, a doorway between the seen and the unseen. And every single time you open that doorway without presence, without awareness, without discernment, you leave more of yourself behind. It is not just skin touching skin, it is shadows entangling. It is unresolved wounds fusing together in the silence. It is ancestral pain being passed between two people who think they are just chasing pleasure. Jung believed the body is not a machine, it is an oracle, a sacred stage where the unconscious reveals its most deeply buried truths. And intimacy is the most honest performance of all. You can fake your words, you can fake your smiles, you can even fake your love, but your body does not lie. It reveals everything you have tried to suppress. When you enter a woman unconsciously, you are not leading, you are escaping. You are begging her to fill the silence that you haven't dared to face in yourself. And the price for this is subtle but devastating. You lose your clarity. You feel drained, directionless, as if a thick fog has entered your mind, but you can't pinpoint where it came from. That fog is not from the act itself. It is from the exchange. Sex is never neutral. It is a transfer of memory, of emotion, of energy. If she is carrying chaos, confusion, or trauma, and you merge with that vibration without awareness, you absorb it through a kind of spiritual osmosis. And suddenly, you are exhausted, but you can't explain why. This is precisely what happens when you treat the sacred as casual. You call it hookup culture, but in reality, it is a ritual of desecration, not because of any outdated morality, but because of pure energetics. You are giving away the most primordial essence of your masculine self, your life force, and you don't even realize it. The more you do it, the harder it becomes to know what is truly yours and what you have absorbed from others. Your masculine clarity begins to fade, your sense of purpose weakens. You stop feeling like a man and start feeling like a mask wearing skin. This is because every unconscious sexual act is not just an experience, it is an exchange of identity. And if you do not understand this, you will keep offering yourself as if there is no cost, until one day you look in the mirror and no longer recognize what is left. This journey is not about guilt, it is about reverence. It is about reclaiming your energy and remembering that not every person deserves access to the sacred temple of your soul. You think your lust is personal, that it belongs to you, that it is your desire, your hunger, your choice. But what if I told you that it is not? What if your lust, the craving that grips you, drives you, and haunts you, was never truly yours to begin with? What if it was merely a symptom of everything you have tried not to feel? Carl Jung called this the shadow, the exiled parts of you, everything you have repressed, rejected, or denied. And when you refuse to face those parts, they do not disappear. They take control. They show up in your fantasies, in your compulsions, in your inability to say no to what you know will leave you feeling empty. Desire, at its most destructive, is not about pleasure. It is about pain leaking through a disguise. It's the ache to prove yourself, the panic of being ignored, the unspoken terror of being unloved, unless you are impressive, generous, sexual, or strong. So what do? You perform. You become the charming one, the deep one, the nice guy, who never offends, never disappoints, never asks for anything real. You morph into whatever version of a man you think they will want, because deep down, you don't believe the real you is worthy of being chosen. This is not kindness. It is a survival strategy. And behind it all is shame. You don't chase her because you love her. You chase her because you are terrified of what you will hear in the silence if she doesn't want you. You tell yourself it's desire, but it is a distraction from your wounds, from your emptiness, from the little boy inside who still doesn't know how to feel seen without earning it. And here is the brutal, beautiful truth. The more you run from that boy, the louder he controls your life. Your shadow is not evil. It is simply unmet, need wearing a mask. That uncontrollable lust. It is the unacknowledged grief of never feeling fully accepted. That sexual craving. It is the spiritual ache to feel like you matter. That addiction to pleasing. It is simply you, begging to be loved without conditions. But as long as you perform, you betray yourself. You become addicted to external validation, to the approval of the feminine, to the temporary high of being wanted, just long enough to escape your own reflection. And every single time that high fades, you chase it again, thinking you need more desire, when what you truly need is integration. The good guy persona isn't good. It's lost, disconnected from its own divine essence and terrified to stop performing. Because if it did, who would it even be? Jung taught that the shadow is everything that has been repressed and never faced. And until it is faced, it will run your life, especially your desire. This is not about rejecting lust. It is about reclaiming it. Because only when you make your shadow conscious, Only when you face the pain you've been running from does desire stop being a drug and become a choice. Every touch is a trade, and if you are unconscious, you are always overpaying. They never taught you that intimacy has a price, not in morality, but in energy. Not every encounter costs your dignity, but every encounter costs something. Because sex is not just a moment, it is a merging of timelines, memory, archetype, and shadow. Unspoken stories, generations of pain and triumph, all of it entangles in a single sacred act. You are not just giving your body, you are handing over your emotional blueprint and absorbing theirs. If you touch her without presence, you do not leave as the same man. You leave carrying things you cannot see but can definitely feel. Suddenly, you're foggy, irritable, detached from your purpose. You tell yourself it's nothing, but it is something. It is energetic debt. Because even when there are no words, the body is speaking. It remembers her chaos, her wounds, her ex-lovers, her projections, her emotional attachments and traumas. They live in her nervous system, and when you enter her unconsciously, you download that code like plugging into a hard drive without a firewall. Carl Jung warned that the unconscious never forgets, and in sex, it screams. Every suppressed insecurity, every unprocessed heartbreak, every trace of emotional poison flows between two bodies like ink into water. We romanticize it, we call it chemistry, we call it passion, we call it being good in bed, when in truth, it is leakage, the leaking of life force, of clarity, of self-awareness. And you wonder why you're tired, why your mind feels scattered, why your spirit feels thin. Because every unconscious touch is a withdrawal from your psychic bank account. You think it was just a night, but it was a ritual you didn't know you were performing. And every ritual has an offering. The question is, what did you offer, and what did you receive? If you are not consciously asking that, you are not choosing your intimacy, you are just surviving it. This is not about fear, it is about power. Because once you understand that sex is more than sensation, that it is archetype, energy, memory, and shadow, you stop giving yourself away like you are worthless. You start moving like you remember your value. Your touch is not casual, it is currency, and your soul is the one writing the check. She left, or maybe she stayed, but either way, the silence afterward was the same. Not comfort, not peace, but something hollow. You lay there, staring at the ceiling, and you don't feel full. You feel faded. The room is quiet, but your mind is loud. Why do I feel worse than before? This is the collapse no one talks about, the post-sex emotional crash that hits not because you regret the act, but because you never got what you thought it would give you. The emptiness is not about her, it never was. It is about what you were trying to extract from her without even realizing it. Validation, worth, a sense that you finally mattered, a momentary escape from the ache you have carried since childhood. But no woman can give you that, because it was never hers to give. When you enter the bedroom hoping to feel whole, you are already fractured. Every move becomes an unconscious negotiation. If I give her this pleasure, maybe she will give me myself back. But it does not work, because you are not having sex with her. You are having sex with the fantasy that she will fix your self-esteem. And when she doesn't because she can't, the emptiness returns, louder than before. Carl Jung believed that when we try to solve inner wounds with external solutions, we only invite more suffering, because we are not healing, we are projecting. That is what this island. You projected your deep longing to be loved unconditionally onto a woman who never signed up to save you. So even if she gave you her body, you feel betrayed. Not because she did anything wrong, but because your soul was hoping for something she could never provide. This is the ultimate psychological trap, using sex to solve wounds that were never about sex in the first place. And the result is a predictable, painful cycle. Temporary high, sudden collapse, repeat. You begin to confuse intensity for intimacy, pleasure for connection, approval for love. But none of it lasts, because it is all built on the void of your own unhealed spaces. Until you realize this, you will keep offering your body in exchange for emotional rescue, and every time, you will leave more drained, more disoriented, more disconnected from who you truly are. Pleasure is not the problem, but using it to avoid your pain always has a price. And if you are not careful, that price is you. You were told to be strong, but no one ever told you what that actually meant. So you guessed. You guessed that strength was silence, that strength was control, that strength meant always saying yes, yes to sex, yes to power, yes to proving you are a man. And somewhere in all that guessing, you lost yourself. Now you wear the mask well, confident, capable, desired, but underneath, you are so tired, not just in your body, but in your soul. This is the secret pain of millions of men. The more we try to prove our masculinity, the more disconnected from its true source we become. Carl Jung understood this collapse long before our time. He saw that the masculine psyche, when divorced from self-awareness, begins to rot from within. You chase status, you chase sex, you chase validation, and still you feel hollow. This is because true masculinity does not need to perform, it needs to be present. But presence is terrifying when you have built your identity on denial, when you have spent your whole life believing that emotions are weakness, that desire is conquest, that your value comes from being chosen, not from choosing yourself. So you become a performer. You memorize the lines, you play the role, you convince her and yourself that you are the man she wants. But the act drains you, not because you are failing, but because it is not real. You are not leading, you are shape-shifting, morphing into whatever version of a man the world rewards in the moment. And it costs you everything: clarity, direction, peace, and eventually, your very identity. The world does not need more strong men, it needs more conscious men. Men who do not measure themselves by how many women they attract, but by how deeply they have met themselves. Men who have faced the shadows that power cannot fix, the grief behind the grin, the fear inside the pleasure. Because the collapse of masculinity does not begin with a crisis. It begins with a single, subtle decision: to trade your authenticity for approval. And from that moment on, you no longer lead your life. You react to it. You become an echo, loud on the outside, but completely empty on the inside. But this does not have to be your fate. You can stop performing. You can start choosing. But first, you must face the parts of you that scare you the most. Because as Jung said, what you do not make conscious will appear in your life as fate. And the longer you ignore your inner truth, the more your shadow writes your story for you, while you stand there wondering why your supposed strength is killing you. You have spent years of your life trying to earn something that was never meant to be earned: affection, approval, masculinity itself. But what if it was never about proving anything? What if everything you thought you had to become was actually something you just had to remember? Carl Jung did not believe in becoming perfect. He believed in becoming whole. And wholeness does not come from performance. It comes from integration. It comes from facing the parts of you that you have exiled: your shadow, your softness, your wounded hunger, your anima. Yes, even the feminine inside of you, the emotion, the sensitivity, the deep craving to be held, not just to conquer. Because here is the sacred paradox. Real masculinity does not fear the feminine. It welcomes her within. And when a man owns that, when he integrates that, he stops reaching, he stops chasing, he stops needing to prove. He simply island. And that is the vibration of true presence. Not a stillness on the outside, but a profound peace on the inside. No masks, no act, just a man who is no longer afraid to be seen without his armor. This is where real intimacy awakens. Not when you impress her, not when you perform for her, but when you show up as your whole self, fully, silently, deeply. She will feel it. She will feel that you are not touching her to get anything, but because your own energy is already full. You are no longer trying to extract worth. You are expressing soul. This is sacred desire. A desire not rooted in scarcity but in sovereignty. A desire that does not beg but invites. A desire that does not collapse but anchors. Because when your lust is no longer a cry for rescue, it becomes a language of truth, not a mask, not a lie, but a reflection of the integrated self you have finally chosen to embrace. Jung called this process individuation, the sacred journey back to your center, where all parts of you belong, the strong, the soft, the sexual, the silent. And when you live from that place, you do not just have sex, you create meaning. You do not just feel pleasure, you feel union not just with her, but with yourself. That is the shift from performing masculinity to embodying it, from chasing intimacy to becoming the kind of presence that invites it. Because the man who no longer needs to prove anything is finally free to love without losing himself. Now you see it. Your desire was never just about pleasure. It was a map, a mirror, a message from the parts of you that you tried not to hear, and what you do next. That is everything. You can pretend you never understood. You can scroll on, go back to sleep, and bury this insight beneath another hit of stimulation. But the truth has already landed in your soul. You know now that desire, your desire, can do one of two things. It can heal you, or it can hollow you. It can be the prison you keep returning to, endlessly chasing women who can never give you what you will not give yourself. Or it can become the portal that leads you back to your soul. But only if you stop giving yourself away like your energy is worthless. Only if you stop treating your body like a bargain to earn love. Only if you remember that not every woman deserves access to your energy, your presence, your clarity. Your desire is sacred, but only when it is owned, only when it is conscious. Because unconscious desire always devours the one who carries it. But conscious desire, that becomes fire, that becomes leadership, that becomes love. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious is not evil, it is just unclaimed, unseen, unloved. And now that you have seen it, you can no longer say, you did not know. The next time you feel that ache, that urge, that magnetic pull toward another body, pause. Ask yourself, am I chasing her or am I running from myself? Because in that moment, you will decide. Desire will either be the chain that binds you or the key that sets you free. And that choice alone, is the beginning of your return.